Hey everybody, this is the week 3 discussion forum review. I've been real impressed with the changes that you guys have made in terms of the improvements I've asked for the last couple weeks from this discussion forum review. The titles are much better. I hope you guys have noticed the difference with the titles. I certainly have. As I go through and I look through the titles as I read each of your entries, I'm more excited to click on links and open them up to find out what you're writing about because your titles are more intriguing. Much better than just week 1 discussion question, right? So that's much better. Grammar, punctuation, particularly capitalization, is much better. Our forum entries are starting to look like a bunch of college students discussing something. So good job with that. Not everybody has been following along. The vast majority of you are doing great and getting the maximum points. I fear that some of the people that have now started losing points in week 3 aren't watching these videos. I think the vast majority of you watching these videos, I'm telling you to do some things different. You're like, oh, okay, I'll make the changes. Unfortunately, I fear I'm preaching to the choir here, that the people that are watching this are making the changes, and unfortunately, I fear some people aren't watching these videos and therefore aren't making those changes. But if you noticed in week 3 you lost a point or two on these and you're wondering why, make sure you go back and watch the week 1 and week 2 discussion forum review. I asked you to make some changes as a class. Okay. Speaking of grading, I got a fair number of emails from students concerned that they weren't getting all the points they should be getting on their entries. And so I thought, well, let me talk about the grading process, because for the vast majority of those people that emailed me, they actually were getting the maximum points. For each week's discussion forum review, there is a maximum 10 points. That's all you can get is 10 points. And it's a 2-part assignment. Part 1 is for 5 points. That is when you make your initial post to the discussion forum, your original observation. You get 5 points. I think where the confusion is coming in is some of you are checking your grade after that initial post, or you're looking and it says you're getting 5 points out of 10, and you think you're doing something wrong. No, you're not. You've just simply completed half of the assignment. When you post an entry, the second part of the assignment, to a classmate, you get another 5 points. And now if you check your grade, you have a 10 out of 10, a 100% for that week's assignment, and all is good. So some of you are just, posting initially and it says 5 of 10, and you think you're doing something wrong, but you're not. It's a little complicated. I have to, because I have so many of these forum entries, I'm reading over 600 of them in a week in all my classes. I have to organize it in my grade book like this so I don't get confused. Okay. So for most of you, you're not doing anything wrong. As long as you're putting in 2 entries, your initial one and responding to a classmate, you're getting 5 points for each of those entries. You're doing everything you can. All's great. However, like I just said before, I'm reading for all of my classes over 600 of these every week. There is potential, and I've done it twice so far, that I read your entry and I move on to the next one before I actually assign you a grade. There's a little drop-down link below each of them that I see. And so I read your entry, I go to the drop-down, I give you 5 points if it's worth 5 points, and then I go on. 2 times so far, I've not assigned a grade. And so if there is a problem, if you did enter assignment or your initial post and then also to a classmate, and then you see you don't have any points, or more likely, probably, you only have 5 points. There is a chance I missed grading one of yours. So by all means, check your grade. If you're owed points, I will correct it. It's an easy fix for me. For the 2 people that pointed it out to me, I immediately went in, changed their grade. All's good. Okay. So by all means, if there is a problem with the grading, let me know. But most of the people who thought there was a problem, there really wasn't a problem. It's just the nature of the way this is getting graded. If you think there's a problem with your grading, let me know. I'll fix it. Okay. I saw more. I would still like to see more of it, but I saw a little more challenging of students when you thought they were getting something wrong. Sometimes some of you were asking for further clarification from a student. If you sort of thought something is wrong, you wanted them to explain a little bit more. That's a really nice way of getting somebody to reconsider some of their ideas. Some of you were helping the people that didn't have good titles for their entries, and you told them, hey, you might want to think of your title, you're going to lose some points. That was very kind of you. And hopefully that made some people change and you're helping some people out. So remember, we don't always have to agree with people. We can politely and based on information that we've learned, challenge other students. Again, not as a troll, not as a jerk, but as a way to help them, pointing out that some of their thinking might be different than what we've been learning in this class. So every week I'm seeing a little bit more of it, and I like it. But there could be more. I still see people getting stuff wrong in this forum, and I think some of you are seeing it and noticing it and not commenting on it. So feel free. Okay, let's talk about the actual content and what you guys were noticing for this week. So this week's question was, what do you observe in contemporary American society that you associate with the Puritans, that you think was influenced by the Puritans? I was a little disappointed this week, and it's not your fault, it's my fault. But a lot of you discussed government, the select board, the characteristics of the select board. I made a big point in my discussion of the characteristics of the select board. Remember, all male, tended to be older, tended to be rich, tended to be church members, few in number. And I made a big point in one of your lectures about how this is very similar to American politics today. Okay, lots and lots and lots of you discussed that. It made the forum a little more boring because a lot of you were talking about the same thing because it's the same thing I pointed out. In the future, and I like questions like this. I'll do this. I'll ask the same kind of question with the Enlightenment. I'll ask the same question with Victorianism. What do you notice today about what we're learning? What I will make more specific in future forums is I want your original observations. Don't tell me something that I already told you in class. Like I said, for this week, for week 3, that was fine. I didn't tell you not to do that. It was just a little disappointing, not because you did anything wrong, but I'm really interested in your original observations. That's what I look forward to. What are you noticing? Because sometimes you guys notice stuff I don't notice, and it just makes it more interesting. And if people are talking about stuff we directly learned in class, it's more boring for your classmates because they're reading some of the same stuff. So nobody did anything wrong. And I'll be more clear in my instructions this time. But there was just, there were less observations. A lot of you pointed out the nature of the people running the town. A lot of focus on gender inequality in that. That was nice. There were clearly some young women in class annoyed by this, the persistence of this, and as well you should. So good for you. I hope some of you will be doing something about that. I look forward to voting for some of you as senators and as presidential candidates. So good for you. If you're mad, do something about it. Run for office. That's awesome. Lot of observations about the persistent religiosity of American society, which is very true. The United States is, on average, much more religious than a lot of other equivalent sort of industrialized countries with that. So that's a good observation. A lot of focus on the closed nature of Puritan society. A lot of you noticed a similar kind of what you felt to be a closure of American societies, particularly communities, the way in which communities sort of self-segregate with people like themselves. It was an interesting area some people took down. Some people made connections with fear of immigration and the closure of Puritan society. I think that was a really interesting observation there. Some of you were making points about the communal versus individualistic nature. You know, we talked about in the beginning, Denham was very communal, and some of you continue to see aspects of that communalism in contemporary American society. Some of you focus, as we talked about later on, particularly on the lecture on decline, about the growing individualism that starts to creep into Denham, and some of you picking up on that nature of individualism. Some of you made the really on-point observation of talking about the debate of wearing masks in the contemporary pandemic right now, and the problem with that for some people that don't want to wear masks being about individualism. They feel they're individualists and they shouldn't have to do things for the better concern of the community like that. So some really interesting stuff. You guys continue doing a good job. I look forward to what you're going to be talking about next week in week 4. Okay, everybody. Bye.